In the late 40s, I came in contact with some chaps who were interested in weightlifting, or rather we used to call it body beautiful in those days, who wanted to show off your muscle and so on. And gradually I joined the Lighthouse Boys Barbell Club, which operated in Duke Street, the backyard of Milton Lovell, a former heavyweight champion of Trinidad and Tobago. And from there I progressed. I started to take on the 3 Olympic lifts, the press, snatch, and clean and jerk. And I eventually started entering competitions. The Lighthouse Boys Barbell Club was affiliated to the then Amateur Physical Culture Association of Trinidad and Tobago. It's now the Trinidad and Tobago Weightlifting Association. It was a big sport. Actually, we won our first medal in the Olympic Games in 1948 from Rodney Wilkes. He got a silver medal, coming second to a chap from Egypt, Lennox Kilgore. We also had a good lightweight called Carl D'Souza, who won a few medals for us at international games. But although it was a sport where we got medals from, it was not a spectator event. In those days, the association used to put on what you call the Body Beautiful contest. And there were people who used to go to the cinema, and by the time the cinema is finished, they come in time for the Body Beautiful contest. I started by representing my club, the Lighthouse Boys Barbell Club. And it's ironical, it was by virtue of the fact that I was not too adept at the weightlifting. So the other chaps who didn't want to miss out on a workout said, Chapman, you go to it. So I started off by representing my club on the Weightlifting Association. Eventually, I became secretary of the Weightlifting Association. And by virtue of that, I was their representative on the Olympic Committee, and that's how I got into the Olympic movement. Well, I had my ups and downs, beginning with the Weightlifting Association. In those days, you used to have the Northern Amateur Weightlifting Association and the Southern Amateur Weightlifting Association. And one year, the Southern people form a block and they decide they're coming down in town to the meeting to get rid of Alec Chapman, which they did. So I wrote up all the books and I sent it down to the chap who was supposed to take over from me. And strangely enough, it was engineered by Rodney Wilkes. So I was out of the Weightlifting Association as such. But in that year, in 1961, I went on long leave to England. And I omitted to say this, I was a Class 1 international referee in weightlifting. So the World's Weightlifting Championships were being held in Vienna on the continent. And in as much as I was in England, I informed them that I was coming across. I came across and I adjudicated as an international referee in weightlifting. As a result, I sent some reports to the Trinidad Guardian. Eustace Ward was the sports editor at that time, giving details as to the results, because there were quite a few colored chaps who were representing England in weightlifting. Well, I don't know, my popularity increased and I was called back to take part in weightlifting. I also adjudicated as a weightlifting referee at 3 Olympic Games. 64 in Tokyo, 68 was Mexico. And again in the Olympic Committee, I was in 1962. Horace Gillett was the president of the Olympic Committee at that time. And the secretary was a chap called Pouchet. He was secretary. So Gillett used to have meetings, and they used to call on my expertise. He used to have meetings at his home in St. Augustine. And they went around talking about the team, and it struck me. I said, but wait, Mr. President, you all are using all my expertise here and so on. What is my position on the team? He said, well, I was coming around to that. You will be made assistant general manager. And sad to say, we went to Jamaica, and within 3 days in the village, Pouchet fell ill, had a heart attack, and automatically I was made manager of the team. That was in 1962. Pouchet died eventually, and in 1963, I was made secretary of the Olympic Committee. And from then on, I have been on the Olympic Association. I was secretary for about 20-some odd years. From there, I went on to being president for 8 years, immediate past president for another 8 years, and now a member of the executive committee. We have been through stages. As a matter of fact, the Olympic Association operated from my home here. The neighbors can tell you that when approaching the games and so on, I used to personally type out all the individual entry forms. All the ID cards had to be typewritten right from here. When we distributing uniforms, tracksuits and so on, it's from the back of my car. You go to here's the Crawford Stadium, open the car, you give them a pep talk, you issue uniforms. Right now, we have an office with a staff of about a dozen people, all paid for and so on. So I don't know, I think I have contributed a lot, and it has been shown in the way the international organizations have treated me, in that I'm a live vice president of the Commonwealth Games Federation. This is a sport primarily made for former presidents of the Commonwealth Games Federation. Peter Heatley of Scotland and A.O.D. Salis of Hong Kong. They are alive now. That's about it. And I have also been made an honorary life member of the Central American and Caribbean Games Organization. As a result, I'm invited to all their congresses, I'm invited to their games, and my expenses are paid by them. So I can say that it has paid off. I traveled extensively as a result of that. The point was made as to whether I should have gone away to study and so on. But I do not think that even if I was a professional, I would have been able to go to all these games and see so many different parts of the world. I have been to about 48 games at Pan American, Central American, Commonwealth and Olympic Games. And as I said, I've seen the world. I don't think I have any regrets.